Welcome back to Uncaged Sports Talk. We are here on episode 8. That's insane. It's already episode 8. I was just talking about that with my guest. It's insane. It's been 2 months of doing this podcast, coming up on it. Trying to still grow the viewership, but that'll come as time goes, more as you guys, the listeners, start to spread it, and that'll just come as the time goes. But without further ado, I would like to introduce my guest this week. He's been on before, Michael Boyer. He actually went to the Eagles game with me this week, which was a really fun game. It was very energetic in that stadium. It was a hyped house. Great, great way to start up the season off at home.
Absolutely. It was a great time. The intro was just incredible before the game, under the
Yeah,
lights at the link. It
I'll
was
show that when we get into the Eagles talk later.
a
It
pretty
was,
great experience.
yeah, very fun experience. Next week, before the Eagles' second home game, I'm gonna have on the person I go to the games with. Make sure to get him on next week because it'll be the first game he gets to go to this year. My step cousin.
Oh, cool.
So that'll be a fun episode as well. But without further ado, we'll kick this thing off with some college football talk. The talk of the football world, the talk of the sports world, prime time. Deion Sanders. He's been the talk of the football world so far. They're out in Colorado. The Buffaloes, they had the most watched Colorado football game since Cordell Stewart was their QB back in the 90s, which is insane considering the game they had this past weekend against Colorado State. It was the most watched Colorado football game since they had Cordell Stewart. That's coming up on 20 plus years, 30 years almost at this point. That's insane considering the game went till 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah, it was wild. I never thought I'd stay up that late watching a Colorado football game. Now, to be fair, like I couldn't make it the whole time, and I was a little disappointed, but fell asleep with it on. I woke up, at about 4 or 5, and I checked the score, and I'm like, oh, I missed a great ending to a great game. But I watched highlights. It's
Mm-hmm.
super exciting stuff. I mean, Dion, like, I wasn't sure what to think about him, being a head coach, but I mean, his speeches are just electric. Like in the locker room, getting the
The
team
speech with
fired
his
up.
mom that they
Oh, that
showed
was
this past
awesome.
week, that was awesome.
Yeah, that was super cool.
I've seen more clips of Dion recently. Like they used to have a reality show that I never even knew that him and his sons and like family. His
Oh,
mom's like
really?
very shy, and like his girlfriend at the time couldn't get his mom to like open up at all. But it was just really funny seeing Shador younger, seeing Shiloh younger. That was
Oh,
really
yeah.
funny to me, especially now knowing that they're really good college athletes. Shiloh had a pick six. His dad said it was the fastest he's ran in years, trying to run down the sideline because his son had a pick six. He said it was a proud dad moment. Seeing his son wear 21, play a DB position, and get a pick six.
I mean, it's crazy, like the way that life kind of comes full circle for that family.
Yeah.
I mean, getting to see your sons play for the team that you're coaching, on a big stage. You're nationally ranked now. You have a big win against TCU, a pretty good win against Nebraska, 36-14 win. Pretty good margin there, and then against like probably their biggest rival, I guess, like in-state rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I know they're not in the same conference, but just a huge rivalry within the state of Colorado, and they come away with a win after, struggling to get going a little bit. But, it's pretty exciting stuff out there in Colorado, and, they got some good matchups coming up.
Yeah, their game's coming up. They got number 10 Oregon this Saturday. That's like the game everyone's going to be watching in college football. If they can pull that off, they got potentially the game of the year, like the most watched college football game of the year at 12 p.m. September 30th against USC. Caleb Williams against Shador Sanders. Prime time going up against Lincoln Riley. That's going to be an exciting game, very exciting game in Boulder, Colorado. If Colorado beats Oregon, it sets up for probably the most hyped up college football game in years, regular season college football game in years, if not maybe ever regular season wise, because the hype
Yeah, it's gonna be
behind this
insane.
Colorado team is insane right now. Sets up for a pretty interesting matchup if Colorado pulls off the upset against Oregon. I think everyone's rooting for it. I think everyone wants to see that USC versus Colorado matchup. Caleb Williams versus Colorado. Prime versus Caleb. Just a whole bunch of intrigue to that. That would be cool. See Shiloh get a pick six against Caleb Williams, the presumptive number one pick, which could
Yeah.
potentially help his brother somehow if his brother keeps having a good year.
Oh
Slide up
yeah.
the draft. If his brother just dominates all year long, and Caleb has like a turnover or two in that game, Shador could maybe slide up somehow if a team's convinced, but that's a long way from now. We'll see how that works out. Just very interested to see what that Colorado team's gonna do. Very exciting stuff there with Prime in Colorado.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean that game against Colorado State was pretty incredible, and I was impressed with the way Colorado State played. I really was, like, on the road, that environment. I mean, they really went, like, right there toe to toe with Colorado, who's obviously showing that they're a very talented team, and it was a great matchup. I mean, I'm disappointed I didn't stay up the whole time. I tried to, but it was late, man, here on the East
Yeah,
Coast. It was a late one.
that that's one of my biggest pet peeves though with college football. A game with Deion Sanders coaching should not be coming on at 10:20, whatever the official start time was. It should not be coming on that late.
Yeah.
A prime time game like that, because the whole world wants to watch it. Everyone, all college football fans want to watch that game. It should not be coming on at 10 and staying on till 2:30. You lose a lot of viewership like that.
Yeah.
If that game's on at 7, that might be the most watched Colorado football game ever. If it comes on at 7, just a bad start time.
Yeah, so I guess they're 2 hours behind, so they're in mountain time. I had to double
Yeah.
check. But it definitely could have started at like maybe a 2:30, 3:30 mountain time, so then maybe like
Mm-hmm.
a 6:30, 7:30 Eastern time. And then like I feel like that would have worked out better for everyone, at least like in the country, to be able to watch
Yeah.
it easier. But
I think
still a great game.
it's a lot to do with the broadcasting rights, but I think
Oh
that's
yeah.
why a lot of teams are starting to switch because they are saying these broadcasting rights here in like the Pac-12, we don't like this.
Yeah.
So we're going to a different conference where we can actually get those primetime games instead of playing games at 10 p.m. Eastern time, which does not work for really anyone
Mhm.
just because it's so late of a start time.
Yeah, it's a little much right there. I mean, I know like with the Phillies, I struggle with those West Coast games sometimes.
Yeah.
It's tough. You want to watch it, but you might have something the next day. I know it's a Saturday night for Colorado, but it's still tough to stay up that late sometimes.
Yeah. Our next order of business, you actually just brought them up, is the Phillies. We'll get into those in just 1 second, but I want to let everyone know to head over and visit my friend Dan the Man Stanley at Sheridan Nissan. Well, they will hook you up with a new car. Just let them know Luke Soranka and Uncaged Sports Talk sent you. Now the Phillies. Very excited with the Phillies. Should be clinching by the time episode 9's out. It should all be clinched and wrapped up by then. Their playoff spot. There's At the time of this recording, there's 12 games left. At the time this is released, there's 10 games left. The Phillies will have 4 against the Mets, 3 against the Pirates, 3 against the Mets. They should be able to clinch soon. 2 against the Braves. I was looking at it before coming on today. The pace that the teams chasing them are at is 84 to 85 wins. Just about 84 wins. All of them are on pace for. Phillies are already at 82 at the time of this recording. Hopefully, I'm expecting 83 by the time this actually comes out, by the time this comes out on Thursday. So if you're at 83 wins, you just need 2 more wins to clinch the division. I mean, to clinch the playoff spot and clinch a home playoff matchup. 2 to 3 more wins, then you should just about be good, because those other teams most likely won't catch you at the pace they've had this year. And the magic number's at 8. Want that to be down to 6, 5 by Thursday, by the time this comes out. Hopefully you clinch it by the end of the weekend. You clinch the playoff spot and the 4 seed, so you get Citizens Bank Park Red October again. And it's 9 for the number for the 4 seed. The magic number for the 4 seed's 9. So the hope would be you can clinch that by the end of the weekend.
And that's what you need, is that home field advantage. I mean, we know last year how hard it was for other teams to come into Citizens Bank Park and play. I mean, I know the Braves are having a great season. They had a great season last year as well, but they really struggled to come into Philly and, win or
Didn't
even
win a
score
single
one.
game in Philly.
Did not win a single game in Philly. I mean, the Phillies were just fired up the whole time. I mean, feeding off the crowd, especially since in that series, it was game 3 was the first game
Yeah.
in
The
Philly,
DUI
the
chants.
first playoff game in Philly in a long time. Yeah, DUI chants. I'm hoping to hear those again this year. If we can get the Braves in Philly again, I'm really hoping for that. But, I mean, this team feeds off the crowd like every single time they're at home. And,
Yeah.
it's a different animal in the playoffs, but fans have really been coming out in the regular season as well. Pretty much every day.
They've been energetic this year compared to previous years too.
Yeah, like, I mean, I think everyone's, like, sensing, like, all right, this team's, like, really ready to compete again. Like, last year, going to the World Series, bit of a surprise, but it just showed, like, that this team has has the ability to live up to their full potential, and we, really know how well this team can play when they're, like, clicking on all cylinders, and we haven't really seen that for an extended period of time this season, but we know what the potential is, so really hoping for a home playoff wildcard series.
Yeah, that would be very fun. I've been looking to try to go to a Phillies game soon. You know that we've been talking about trying to go to one before the end of the season. I also had a thought though, considering there's only 7 more regular season games at home. Part of me would rather save that money and then
Yeah,
just save that money and go to game 1 of the playoffs, which would be October 3rd. Because it's most likely going to be at home. It would have to be an epic collapse not to be at home. Like
yeah, for sure.
it's also refreshing not to see an October collapse from the Phillies, because they've just about done their job and held on to that spot. They've had their struggles here and there, but it's very refreshing not to see them collapse. I remember last year you weren't there at the time on WVUD,
Mhm.
but they lost to the Nationals, I believe, and we all were like, yeah, they're not making the playoffs. It's time to just think about the offseason. They're not making the playoffs. And this was just about a year ago, probably today when this video comes out. And we all just lost hope.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
doesn't seem to be the case this year, because they're just holding their spot.
yeah, I mean, I feel like the last few years, September hasn't been too kind to the Phillies, and no, thanks to a lot of help from the Brewers last year not doing too well, allowing the Phillies to really kind of squeak into the playoffs, and on the third to last game of the season, actually able to clinch a playoff spot for the first time in forever since 2011.
Mm-hmm.
That was awesome. I mean, the Marlins helped out the Phillies last year by beating the Brewers late in the season, which kind of led to Phillies being able to actually clinch the playoffs. But I mean, this year, yeah, they haven't, like you said, Luke, they've had their struggles, but overall they've kept up a good pace. Like, they haven't been perfect in September, but they haven't totally collapsed for sure. And
Mm-hmm.
other teams like the Cubs have been struggling a little bit as of late, like within the last week, and The Diamondbacks are kind of making a bit of a push. The Giants have fell off the face of the earth, but that's been that way for the past few weeks. But it's just like not really any of the teams in the wild card race right now have been that stellar, but the Phillies have definitely been the best out of all those teams.
Yeah, it's just been very refreshing. Just no teams really have been stellar in this wild card race, like you just said, but they're being consistent at least. Your goal at this point: stay healthy, one, and just maintain pace. Maintain a decent pace where no one passes you, and they completed both of those goals. Like this Brave series, at the time this podcast comes out on Thursday, and it won't matter in the long run. You want to send a message to a degree, which they did in the first game of the series, but in the long run, the Braves don't really care about this series. Phillies don't really care that much about this series. They're more just trying to stay healthy and get that 4 seed, and then win the 2 games. Don't even let it go to 3, and then you play Atlanta in
Yeah,
the ATL, and same formula as last year: win 1 on the road, and hopefully 2 in Philly. That's the formula.
there you go.
It's
I like.
what was that?
Oh, I was gonna say I like the way you think, Luke. There we go. I
Yeah.
mean, if they can knock off Atlanta again, I mean, might be my least favorite team in baseball. I mean, them and the Mets were competing for a while, but right now, definitely the Braves are my least favorite team
Hmm.
in baseball. But be pretty nice to knock them out again of the playoffs, and I really have confidence that they'll have the opportunity to do that and have the opportunity to play them in the divisional round. So let's just hope they get by the wild card round.
I also just looked it up because just wanted to double check from last year. Last year, it was October 29th when there were a few of us. It was me, Connor Metz, Dan Steenkamer, the people we did the radio with, for the people that don't know them. And the Phillies were playing the Cubs. We were scoreboard watching because they were trying to clinch with like a week left in the season. And they wound up losing 2-0 to the Cubs. There was a storm that was gonna mess up the National Series. So that was gonna impact that series to a degree. It was season over. That's how we thought at that time. We were like, their season's over. Then we went in the following week, and I picked them to beat the Cardinals in the first round of the playoffs. So it's just funny how a lot of stuff changed in the matter of days, in the matter of a week. But
Yeah,
that was a year ago this time, and it's a completely different feeling with the Phillies. This time next week, it'll all be clinched, and you'll just be focusing on the Eagles for another few weeks. Baseball talk might not even get mentioned until the playoffs start, but then we're going to talk a lot about baseball for those episodes following. What's going to be exciting? I hope to potentially. I got to do some work behind the scenes on this, but going to drop a bombshell here. I hope to potentially have a former World Series champion on my podcast. He was part of the team in 2008. Former World Series champion on my podcast when the playoffs started up for baseball.
well, you gonna give us a name drop, or you
I
gonna
can give a
surprise
hint.
everyone? Okay.
The best hint I can give is his initials are the same letter. The initial for his first name and last name are the
Oh,
same letter, and he wore number 38. He's a pitcher.
that's
If you can guess, I'll give you
oh man, that's
10 seconds to guess.
10 seconds. Oh, that's tough,
He
man.
was
I
on the
don't.
team. I'll give you 10 seconds from the time. I'll tell you who was on the
Wait,
team for.
was he a bullpen pitcher or starting
He was a
pitcher?
starting pitcher for the majority of his time on the team. When they won the World
Oh,
Series, he was a bullpen pitcher.
I'm
But
trying to think. Oh, when they won the World Series, he's in the bullpen. Oh, that's tough. I'm so bad with like remembering players'
I'm
numbers.
pulling up his baseball like reference and stats. He was on the
Okay, cool.
Phillies from 2017 from 2007 to 2014. Then went to the Rockies in 2015 and the Red Sox in 2017.
Oh, Reds. Okay. Um. Oh, that's tough.
Well, I'll actually drop the name.
Oh,
I got to do a lot of stuff behind the scenes for this,
I feel like I don't know anything.
but
Oh,
I'll drop how I can potentially get him on as well before I drop the name.
oh yeah,
My mom's friend, her her husband, his brother-in-law is Kyle Kendrick, KK38.
Kyle Kendrick. Okay,
He's
yeah, I
also
should have known that actually.
he's also starting up a like baseball clinic, a hitting clinic. They like teach kids baseball. So I can have him on if potentially and he can promote that as well. And I
Oh
can have
yeah,
him on to talk about the Phillies, which hopefully when October comes around, I got to do some stuff behind the scenes before that episode would roll around. But that would be a huge pull for the podcast.
oh
Former
that'd be
World Series
huge.
champion.
Do you remember the prank that they pulled on him back then?
Yeah,
Might have been like 2009 or
yeah, I've seen it
2010.
on YouTube. They did a prank on him
Yeah.
and him sending him to Japan. They said they sent him to Japan.
Yep. That was so
Yeah.
funny.
So I'll try to have him on because I have a connection to him. The person that I have a connection through is like family. Been in my home life most of my life. So he might be able to pull some strings and help me with it. He's told me he would. And then it
Yeah.
also helps Kyle. It would help Kyle Kendrick promote his hitting clinic as well if I post some of the stuff out there for him. So it works out mutually for both of us.
Yeah, that'd be super cool.
But that's down the line. We'll get to the Eagles though. And one more thing, I'll drop another potential guest, my uncle, who at one point wanted to do the podcast with me, but his schedule is too busy. He golfs and fishes with Lane Johnson. I won't be able to get Lane on probably because the Eagles, you got to jump through a bunch of hoops
Oh yeah.
because they're media. But he said I could potentially get his trainer on, which would be a huge pull. Getting Lane Johnson's trainer.
Yeah.
He trained some other NFL players, but that would be really cool. He's really close to Lane Johnson's trainer. My
And
uncle said Lane Johnson is like his fishing buddy, which is pretty funny to me. He probably was fishing with him on Friday. I got to get my uncle to take me fishing and meet Lane.
Oh yeah.
But he actually got me a signed autograph from Lane Johnson. Mini helmet, Kelly Green, signed by Lane Johnson, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's unreal.
The fact he knows Lane Johnson and is cool with him.
He seems super funny too. Lane does. I mean, I always liked.
Did you see the clip of him? I think it was after week 1, may have been this week actually. Oh, Lane Johnson saying "Hi, Grandma." He posted He posted a little clip on his Instagram during the game. During one of the broadcasts, he said "Hi, Grandma" and was waving, and then it just cut off. And
was it after a touchdown he did that?
Yeah, I think it was this Vikings game.
That. Yeah,
because I don't remember seeing it on TV, but that's just pretty funny. I thought that was really funny when I saw that.
Yeah.
Without further ado, though, we'll get into some Eagles talk and then get into my power rankings and our best bets for the week. What were your thoughts at the game in week 2 for the Eagles? Actually, before that, sorry for pivoting right here, but before that, I want to show the people listening and watching on YouTube how energetic it was at the link on last Thursday night. It was insane. We got a video I'm gonna show of the light show. That was just an insane. Usually during these, they do songs for those about to rock the thing. That time around, that something, but this was just surreal. To kick off the season, Thursday Night Football, it was just an insane feeling that night. It was a surreal moment in that stadium. Cool open. I hope they do for those about to rock for day games, but for night games, that's perfect. That light show was insane.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been to an Eagles night game in a very long time. It's been a few years now, and I mean, it was just that was something I've never seen before.
Yeah.
I love that stuff, especially like at the Sixers, they do that stuff like with the court and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But just like in that huge stadium, the lights, the way it just like bounced off the field, the green lights, and then the crowd had their lights as well. I mean, it was pretty incredible, and that really set the tone for a great season at home, and a
Yeah.
great night that night.
It set the energy level. Like the
Yeah,
energy level was already high, but then that just elevates it even higher. When you hear that, when you see that, it just elevates the energy level even higher when they do it's just something different too. It was just something different than usual, which I like.
yeah.
But it was just a surreal way to kick off the game before the game. And then you have Michael Buffer to
Oh
do let's
yeah.
get ready to rumble before the kickoff. That was insane. I was like, holy shit, when I saw that. That was really cool to see that.
Yeah,
But
the fact that he was there, I mean,
yeah,
unreal.
what were your thoughts on the game as a whole?
Well, I mean, I think the defense looked pretty solid overall. One thing I will say is that Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown really weren't on the same page the whole time, which, like, that stuff's gonna
Hmm.
happen. Jalen Hurts didn't play in the preseason at all, and it's tough to get your feel for it down, but he definitely looked better than he did against the Patriots, other than that really bad interception.
Yeah,
But AJ Brown was open a couple times, and we were speculating as to why they might have gotten into it on the sideline. I think that might be why. Is just that he missed him a couple times that were wide open, and I don't think it's a bad thing for AJ Brown to kind of let Jalen Hurts know, like, hey, like you got to go through your progressions a little bit better. You got to like see me when I'm open. Like it's just sometimes you got to hear that as a quarterback, and I think the Philly media might have been blowing it out of proportion when it first happened, but I mean that's fine. Like I know, like that stuff's bound to happen. I'm glad that Jalen Hurts, or excuse me, I'm glad that AJ Brown wasn't afraid to speak up for
yeah.
himself and what he believed in. It's great.
One thing that I liked with it, or that I think people blew it out of proportion with, if you actually watch, you can actually read Jalen's lips in it. It was hard to read AJ's, but you can clearly see Jalen saying, "I got you, I got you." And then the next drive, he came out, threw him like three straight passes or whatever. Even when you're trying to ice the game and you wanted to run the ball, he threw AJ Brown like three straight passes, which pretty telling that it looks like he said, "I got you," and then he starts to throw the ball to him.
Yeah,
My biggest thing is with that argument they had on the sideline, the one concerning thing that just raises an eyebrow for me, it looks like towards the end of it, he may have brought Devontae into it for some reason. Because Hurt starts to walk away, but then Devontae's looking at him, and Sirianni's in the way between the two of them. So I'm wondering if he brought Devontae into the argument, and maybe there's a little jealousy there, which is concerning considering AJ does have a diva-ish side to him to a degree.
yeah,
But
and you don't want that at
yeah,
all.
that's the one thing that concerns me, a jealousy thing. But that's yet to be seen. I don't think he's jealous right now. Hopefully it doesn't turn into something more later in the season. The one thing I remember at the game with Hurts, he missed on the Devontae catch on the first drive. Devontae had the big 40-yard catch down the right sideline. Hurts missed AJ Brown wide open, butt naked is a good term to use for it. Wide open, no one within 20 yards of him. easy touchdown. You left 4 points on the board on that drive. You only came away from the drive with 3 points. You left another 4 points on the board on that drive because that should have been an easy touchdown if he looks that way. Except he
Yeah, I
didn't look that
mean,
way.
unfortunately, he did not, and, I mean, he ended up getting the completion, but A.J. Brown, I mean, he could have made himself dinner over there, he's wide
Yeah,
open, I mean, would have been a w really easy touchdown, then, obviously, the Birds end up with 3 points on that possession, on that drive, at least you get points on the board, but, it easily could have been a touchdown, and
and those 4 points
it's
can make or break a difference if need be.
absolutely, and the game
You
was close for a while, so,
if
it
the Vikings go down and they like after if they recover the onside kick, changes the whole game
Yeah.
because then all if they get a touchdown and win by one, that 4 points you win even if they get a touchdown there. It gives you that much more of a cushion. And
Yeah, you need that.
and then on the pick that he threw, that was a very concerning throw. I saw another clip of it. He wasn't as open as I thought he was going to be, but AJ Brown was also open on that play, and I believe Hurts was throwing it to Devontae again, but AJ Brown was also open up the seam. He had good positioning over the corner. The corner was on the outside of him. AJ could have went in if Hurts let him, and he could have had a good deep gain there. It was just an ill-advised throw from Hurts throwing in a double coverage. But overall, I think it was a solid game from the team. The defense did good for not having some players, not having Bradbury, not having Avante for half the game. They met expectations. That's all I really wanted from them. I expected like a 6 point game, 7 point game. The team met expectations. I expected them to give up some points. They didn't disappoint me. Some people are still very concerned, but it's only week 2. For the people sounding an alarm, it's only week 2. The Bengals are 0-2 last year, made it to the AFC Championship. Eagles are 2-0. They're gonna be fine. They're gonna be fine. You got an easy schedule, so you can start clicking eventually. You got the Bucks on Monday Night Football this upcoming week. You should win that game. You got the Commanders at home. At 1 o'clock. You should win that game. You got the Rams. The Rams are better than people are giving them credit for, but that's another game you should win fairly easily, even though it's in LA. You got the Jets. After that, you should beat them. Zach Wilson just makes it look
He's
hard.
awful.
Makes playing QB look hard compared to other QBs. It is a hard thing to do, but compared to other QBs, he just makes it look that much harder.
Yeah, he doesn't really look like he belongs too much in the NFL, which is
And then
unfortunate.
the first true challenge is the Miami Dolphins. I think you should be 6-0, and then once you get to that 6-0 point before you play the Dolphins, you should start to have things clicking by then. Things should be clicking by then. You should be in a rhythm, and you should be starting to hit your stride on all cylinders when you get to week 7.
Yeah, I mean the Dolphins are going to be tough, but I mean at least they're not getting the Dolphins this week
Yeah.
because I mean really was not impressed against the Patriots. I don't think the Eagles looked that good. Definitely looked
Mm-hmm.
better this past week against the Vikings. On a short week, I think they, like you said, Luke, they met expectations. It's week
Yeah.
2, and a lot of these starters didn't get little to no time in the preseason. So this is essentially their preseason.
Yeah.
And overall, they haven't really looked that bad. I mean, I have confidence that, now that they have an extended rest for Monday Night Football on the road against a team that isn't great in the Buccaneers. I think the defense gonna look great. And they did get a lot of one thing I want to say about last week is that they got a lot of pressure on Kirk Cousins, and I
Yeah.
really like to see that.
D line's been
Um,
the standout of the season so far,
yeah, I mean Jordan Davis is incredible. So is Jalen
taking a
Carter as
huge
well.
step.
Yeah, I mean they really look very strong, and I think that's gonna show once again against the Buccaneers. And I love Jalen Hurts. Like I don't think anyone needs to be concerned about Jalen Hurts. Like, I think he has a great work ethic. He always says and does the
Mhm.
right things usually, and yeah, sometimes his ill-advised throws happens, but it's just the trials and tribulations of being a young quarterback that he is. But overall, I mean, I think he does make good decisions for the most part. And I think he's just going to continue to grow this season, and we're going to start to see him look possibly even better than he did last year. I'm confident about that.
Yeah, I I think there's no alarm for concern. I don't think there's any concern here. The D lines looked vastly improved. They're not improved. Improved is a hard word to say. Hassan Reddick hasn't been special yet, but I think he'll get it right. He started slow last year, but the D line's getting pressure through the interior, which should help eventually because then it'll make the edge rushers' jobs easier later in the season as well. And Fletcher Cox, he's had a resurgence here. He's looked insane these first 2 weeks. He's looked really good at that D tackle position, teaching those young guys, Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. And with Hurts, he'll figure it out. I think he's a smart QB. He'll figure it out sooner rather than later, which I think the Eagles will be fine. We'll be fine. Just got to keep pace because the Niners and Cowboys, they're not losing anytime soon either.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But before we get into Luke's list, my NFL power rankings for this week, and some of the best bets for this week, I want to get your predictions for this Eagles Bucks game. Who do you think's gonna win, and what's gonna be the score? I'm currently about to post my score and say my score, but I'll let you go first.
Okay. I think the Eagles start out really strong, similarly to the Patriots game, but they finish stronger than they did in week 1. I think that on the road with this extended rest, kind of hearing the noise surrounding the team a little bit and the concerns that people have is really going to fire up this group a lot. And I think they're gonna go up early. I think the Bucks are gonna start to come back, and then the Eagles are gonna pull away towards the end. So I'm thinking that it's gonna be 31-21. I like a 10-point Eagles win on the road Monday Night Football. I don't know if that's a little too confident, but I really don't think the Buccaneers are a good team at all,
Well,
and the
I
defense is gonna show out, I think.
I don't think that's too confident at all. My eyebrows perked up when you just said that score because I was writing my score down. That's why I let you go first as well because I wanted
Okay.
to use it as a banner. My prediction: Eagles go into Tampa Monday Night Football. Hurts has struggled against Todd Bowles in his early part of his career, but he hasn't seen Todd Bowles in 2 years. Eagles go into Tampa Monday night, Raymond James Stadium, and they win 34-21. So basically the same exact score. We both have the same
Yeah.
expectations for this game. 10, 13-point win. That's what I expect. Now, if they
Yeah.
only win by 7, then you don't meet expectations to a degree. Then the expectations aren't met, and then I'll have a little more concern. But if you meet the expectations at least, then I'm fine. If you come out, get a 34-21 type of win, you met my expectations. It was what I expected at that point. So
Yeah.
then there will be no cause for concern at that point. But
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's gonna be it's always tough to, go on the road Monday night, but with this, I think the rest is gonna really help this team a lot. And
yeah,
I'm curious to see because they haven't really said anything about Avante Maddox. I mean, I'm assuming he probably won't be able to go.
last thing I saw, torn pec, done
Oh,
for the
that's what
season.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
I wasn't really sure what was going on with that, but I think you gotta put Slay on Evans.
yeah.
And then, not sure who would really
Bradbury should be back. He'd be Godwin. I think
yeah.
they'll just play a side, whatever side works better. Because Bradbury is a bigger corner, so he can
Yeah,
guard Evans as well. So they'll probably just play their usual sides,
mhm,
and then so you should have the matchups if Bradbury's there, if Bradbury's back.
yeah, and, I mean,
Speak
you definitely wanna get him back for sure.
right before we get into Luke's list, though, I want to send out a prayer as a word to say to Nick Chubb. Hopefully he has a speedy recovery. Speaking of injuries, because that injury he suffered last night, that looked gruesome. If you saw it, it looks like it could be a career ender. Your knee's not supposed to bend the way his knee bent. I want to give prayers to him. Hopefully, he can make a speedy recovery and come back healthy, and be the same type of running back he has been in the past. But it did not look good at all for him.
Yeah, that was really tough to see. I mean, think back to all like the bad injuries that have happened recently. I mean, a lot of them have happened on Monday Night Football, and it's like,
Monday Night Football curse.
yeah, I've heard that, and I really like Nick Chubb. He seems like a great guy, and I've always thought he was like super talented and great for that team. And just really tough to see that, just kind of like a routine play, nothing like too out of the ordinary. And then someone just dove into his leg and it just
Mm-hmm.
bent the way it did. And it's tough to see that, and especially
Yeah.
for a young running back like that, the possibility of, or even thinking that your career could be over thanks to that injury, it's just tough. And I heard that he hurt the same knee in college.
He hurt the knee in 2015 against the Titans.
Okay. That's what it was.
He
Yeah.
tore he that year he dislocated the knee. He had a torn MCL, PCL, and LCL.
Yeah,
I think
that's rough.
the way that picture looks might be almost every ligament in his knee.
Yeah.
This time might be torn MCL, ACL, PCL, LCL. Every ligament in the knee might be torn the way that knee looked. Your knee's not supposed to bend that way. It was at a 90-degree angle.
Oh, yeah, it's so tough to watch. I mean, did you see the alternate angle that they didn't really show on TV?
No, I saw a picture of it of
Okay,
something
yeah.
of the knee bent to the side, but that's all I was able to see of it. I didn't see an alternate angle yet. I'm sure by the time this comes out, I'll see more about it.
Yeah.
But
Um, there was an angle from the other side of the field that really was just it was tough, man. I really just you really feel bad for people that
mhm.
have that happen to them. I mean, that's terrible.
On a lighter note, we're gonna get into Luke's list and the NFL power rankings. Luke's list this week, trending up, is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Eagles' opponent this week. Over the last 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks of the season, the Bucs have trended up a combined 12 spots from where I had them in my preseason power rankings, in my pre-week 1 power rankings. The Buccaneers come in at 16th in this edition of Luke's list. They move up 7 spots. They've shown some improvement with Mike Evans looking like he's had a resurgence to a degree. They still got Godwin. Baker's having a solid year so far, which I don't think anyone expected. But they're heading in a good direction right now, Tampa. They are looking better than a lot of people thought they would heading into the season. And then the Giants, even though they won, they're trending down. They go down 6 spots this week. The fact you had to come back against the Cardinals, that's to me an indictment because the Cardinals are a bottom 5 team, maybe bottom 4 to 3 team. But the fact you had to come back against the Cardinals, that's an indictment on your team. And you have not looked good through the first 2 weeks. You've looked like one of the worst teams in football through the first 2 weeks. Daniel Jones looked like he regressed back to what he's been in the past. They just have not looked good at all. But coming in at number 10, the Chargers. The Los Angeles Chargers, they moved down 1 spot on this list. The thing with the Chargers at 10, it feels like a little too high for the Chargers the way they've been so far this year. But I don't see any other team to really replace that spot, really take that spot from them. So they almost get it by default. The Jaguars, this is where the rest of the list is what it should be just about. Jaguars at 9. They moved down one spot after their loss to the Chiefs, but Jaguars still have a solid football team. They'll get stuff figured out sooner rather than later. Coming in at number 8 is the Bengals. There could be a case for the Bengals to actually be at 9 now with Joe Burrow calf injury being re-aggravated. But the Bengals, when Joe Burrow figures, if Joe Burrow's injury is not as bad as it seems right now, they should be fine. They'll get it together eventually. They were 0-2 to start last year, but I expect them to get it together eventually. Might just take a little longer than it took last year. Hopefully, isn't too long, because then you dig yourself a big hole to fight out of. Coming in at number 7, the Baltimore Ravens. They could be 6 on this list, but I have them 7th right now just because their injuries are still concerning. Not having Marcus Williams, you already lost J.K. Dobbins, so you're weaker at the running back position. Your defense has some injuries built up right now. You just had some injuries building up there that you had in week 1. But the Ravens coming at 7. Coming in at number 6, the Buffalo Bills. They could drop down to that 7 spot and flip with the Ravens. But I got the Bills at 6 right now. They move up 1 spot compared to last week. Just like where they are right now. It's still concerning with Josh Allen, but they had a bounce back. I'm still concerned with them long term, but right now, long term this season, like when it gets down to the playoffs, because it's become a little bit stagnant there in Buffalo. But right now, they come in at number 6. And number 5, the Miami Dolphins. They've looked like one of the better teams in football so far this year. I feel like it's hard to disagree with this top 5. They've been very impressive through the first 2 weeks. They struggled a bit this week against the Patriots defense. But what teams don't struggle against a Bill Belichick-led defense? Though they got the talent on offense, as long as Tua stays healthy, they'll be in the mix as the season goes along. Coming in at number 4, the Niners, they dropped 1 spot just because they had a slight struggle to the Rams, but nothing major. And it's also because the team ahead of them deserves that jump up 1 spot the way they've been in the last 2 weeks. But the Niners coming at number 4. One of the better rosters in football. They look good for the first few weeks. Niners get the 4th spot. Coming in at number 3, the Dallas Cowboys. They've probably been the most impressive team to start the year. They got the highest point differential to start the year. Though they deserve the 3 spot right now. The 2 teams ahead get the benefit of the doubt currently to start the season. But the Cowboys get the 3 spot right now. They've been the most impressive team. Dak's still their big concern when it gets to the playoffs and when they start playing harder competition. But the Cowboys coming at number 3. Coming at number 2, no changes at this spot. The Kansas City Chiefs. They got to win. They struggled against the Jaguars, but again, it's only week 2. Teams are going to have their struggles early on, especially with players not playing in the preseason. It almost looked like Travis Kelce was somewhat of a decoy. They weren't passing him as much as they usually do. He had a touchdown, but still may have been more of a decoy than not in that game. And it was Chris Jones' first game back, so they'll get their stuff rolling eventually. Then at number 1 is the Eagles. We just discussed them a few minutes ago. They'll be fine when it comes down to it, when we get to the thick of the season. But the Eagles get the benefit of the doubt ahead of the Cowboys and Niners right now, just because they have the best roster overall in football, and they've still won the first 2 games. And I expect them to figure it out over the next few weeks. Before we get into our locks and best bets as we wrap up on the show, what are your thoughts on this rankings so far throughout the season?
I do like your rankings for sure. I don't know how high I am on the Ravens. I know they did beat the Bengals, who are a good team that is struggling a little bit, but I don't know why, but I'm never like super high on them. I'd say maybe you could argue that the Bengals could still be at that 7 spot ahead of the Ravens and maybe put the Ravens at 8. But overall, I have no problem with where the Ravens are for sure. And overall, I like the rankings. I think the Giants, especially. I mean, you talked about this. even though they won. I mean, they look awful, and Daniel Jones just
Saquon's out 3 weeks, I think.
yeah, that's tough, dude. I mean, I know they're trying not to rule him out for Thursday night, but I mean, he
Yeah, he's
against the
gonna be out.
49ers, but he's definitely going to be out, and it would help my fantasy team if he was in, but anyway, but no, the Buccaneers though trending up. They look good against the Bears. And Baker Mayfield, definitely has looked solid so far. He was 26 of 34 last week, 317 yards and a touchdown, no picks. So, he's taking care of the football, and, he's not really letting the ball hit the ground too much. He's getting a lot of completions. So, yeah, he's looked solid so far for them. But I really do like your rankings. I know some people have the Cowboys at number one, and as much as I hate to say it, yeah, they have been like probably the most impressive team. I think maybe you could put them at 2 ahead of
Mhm.
the Chiefs just because the Chiefs didn't look great last week and they lost to the Lions in week
Yeah,
1. And one sleeper team I maybe would put at 10 would be the Lions. I think the Lions are a good team.
I can
Uh,
tell you right now where I have them. I have my power rankings pulled up,
mhm.
but you want to keep going, and then I'll tell you where I have them ranked.
Oh yeah, yeah, no problem. I just think I think the Lions are a good team. I know they lost in overtime. Huge Jared Goff pick six that kind of derailed that game for the Lions, but overall they look pretty solid and they have a good offense, good receiving core. Um, and I mean, I like Jared Goff. I think he, despite just mentioning that pick six, he does a good job taking care of the ball, not
Mhm.
really putting the team in harm's way for the most part. Um, I think
I,
I think if he had maybe 40 more like passes or something, he would have had the NFL record for the most passes without an interception. I think I heard that. Not sure if the number I said was correct, but either way, he was close to that record and then he threw the pick six. But I think they're a good team. So I think you could argue to put them possibly
I,
at
I currently got them. I'm gonna have to get through this next few segments in a time crunch. Try to
Mhm.
get in before the hour mark, but I currently got the Lions at 13. I got the Vikings still one spot ahead of them, just because I think the Vikings, it's just a turnover issue right now for them. I think they'll get it cleaned up. Their offense looked good against the Eagles, and their defense is but their offense still looked impressive despite the loss. They just need to clean up the turnover issues. And then I got the Seahawks ahead of them at 11, just because the Seahawks got the win against them, and I like the Seahawks roster overall. But they're the two teams I got ahead of them, and then you got the top 10. But Lions can for sure move up if Chargers struggle again against the Vikings. Though we're going to move up probably because the Chargers and Vikings play each other. So one of those teams definitely drops. It's just a matter of how the both of those teams look and how the Lions look this upcoming week. But we'll get
yeah.
into Luke's locks and Mike's best bets as we close up on today's show. We'll start with Luke's locks. I got the Eagles at minus 5.5. We already went over this. I got the Eagles winning by like 10 to 13. The Eagles should be able to win by 5.5 or more. I got the Chiefs minus 13.5. They're playing the Bears. Every team looks good against the Bears. Chiefs are gonna look like the best team in football against the Bears. The Bills minus 6.5. The Bills should be able to. I think they should be able to beat the Commanders. This is a line that I think is a decent line by Vegas. But if it's 8.5, even 7.5, I might sway the other way. But 6.5, I like the Bills as a lock this week. I think they win by maybe 7 to 10. This 7 to 8.5, it would just be a lot harder to pick them. I got the Steelers plus 1.5 against the Raiders. They should be able to beat the Raiders. I know that they've been struggling so far with Pickett this year at Pickett, and Deontay's hurt right now. Najee's not really good running back right now. But they still got Mike Tomlin. They still got talent. They got TJ Watt. They still got talent. I think Pickett's good. He's just looked bad through these first few weeks. And the Raiders' defense just isn't that good, so I think this is a get-right game for the Steelers. Then I got the Patriots minus 2.5. I think this is where I don't think Bill Belichick's going to start 0-3. I think Bill Belichick gets his team right for this game, and they get the win. They pull it out with like a 6-point win against the Jets. Because Zach Wilson, he might have Zach Wilson in shambles. Zach Wilson might be Sam Darnold 2.0 after this game, seeing ghosts. Now for Mike's best bets. I know we disagree on some of them. You have the Jets, you got the Commanders, but I want to hear your take on them.
So I have the Titans covering plus 3.5 against the Browns. Especially after losing Nick Chubb, it's going to be tough for the Browns, and I don't think Deshaun Watson is very good anymore after his debacle. Now the Browns, I think, win, but I think it might be like really close. I think it could. This one's tough. I think it could be like a 3-point Browns win, but I still think, the Titans looked like they look all right so far. I think. I mean, Derrick Henry's still a powerful running back, and I think they're gonna have some success offensively against the Browns. But I like plus 3.5 for the Titans. I got the Lions minus 3.5 against the Falcons. I think they win by like 7 probably. Falcons are a really bad team, and I mean Ritter is not great for them at all. And
Yeah, he struggled to a degree so far this year.
yeah, and I think the Lions bounce back, especially being at home. That team, is sold out, like their season tickets, everything. The crowd is really loud. I went to week 1 last year versus the Eagles. I think I told you that, Luke. But
Yeah,
their crowd is really fired up. Indoor stadium, the noise is really contained. And I don't think a rookie quarterback like Ritter will have a easy time in that game. The Jets, I think, will. So I have them plus 2.5 against the Patriots. This one's tough, you know. But I think since they're at home and I think they have an overall solid team, that this game could be really close against the Patriots. I do think the Pats end up winning, especially since they haven't looked that great so far. I don't think they're as bad as they've looked. But the Jets, I mean, the only thing holding them back is Zach Wilson. He's not the greatest, and he's definitely shown that. But overall, they have a solid team other than the quarterback, which obviously is a very important position. And the Commanders plus 6.5. And I agree with what you said. This is a good line here by Vegas. I think that the Commanders might be able to cover it though, being at home, and how I don't really trust Josh Allen that much. He really just
turnovers,
doesn't make good. What'd you say? I'm sorry.
turnovers.
Oh yeah, turnovers. Yeah. He doesn't make great decisions, and I think the Commanders. I saw that it's going to be a sellout there again, so it might be like a good crowd, for once in that terrible stadium that they play in.
Worst stadium in the
So
league.
yeah, I mean it's just awful. Don't set foot in there because I'm afraid it's going to fall apart one of these days. But I think that the Bills, obviously, I think they're going to win, but I don't know how close it's going to be. Maybe 4-point game or something like that. It could be close, definitely. And then we both had the Eagles minus 5.5. We already said our scores, but I have them winning by 10 and you have them winning by 13. So,
Yeah,
we have them easily covering this spread, and I think they will do it on Monday night.
I think this is a get-right game for the Eagles. Like, this is the game where they go out and they prove why I got them at 1. This is a game where they are like, okay, yeah, they deserve a number 1 spot in power rankings. They're just as good as the Cowboys. Hurts hasn't regressed. Some people have said this is a get-right game for the Eagles against the Bucks. Good spot for the Eagles. You get a long break, clean some things up, and get things rolling. That'll do it on this episode, though, of Uncaged Sports Talk. I appreciate having you on, Mike. It was a very
Yeah,
fun episode. I know you're a huge Phillies fan, as we were talking about, and you've seen with the Phillies hat.
yep,
So try to have you on during some playoff episodes potentially.
absolutely. Yeah,
Hopefully, there's a deep playoff run for the Phillies and have multiple episodes talking about them. But that'll do it on Uncaged Sports Talk. Hope to have you on again in the near future.
yeah,
Please tune
sounds
in next
good.
week. Like, comment, and subscribe on all of our platforms. It's greatly appreciated. And continue along with us on the journey here at Uncaged Sports Talk.